She's not thinking about the guy who texts back immediately. She's thinking about the one who didn't. And somewhere deep down, you already knew that. You just didn't want it to be true. There's a moment most people never talk about. You're lying in bed, phone in hand, screen lighting up your face in the dark, and you're staring at a conversation you've read 17 times. Not because there's anything new in it, but because you're searching it, looking for a sign, a hidden meaning, some proof that what you felt was real, that it was mutual, that you weren't alone in whatever this was. That moment? That's not weakness. That's the human mind doing exactly what it was designed to do, obsessing over what it can't fully have. Welcome to Psychology of Desire, where we don't just talk about attraction. We dissect it. We go underneath the surface, into the parts of human psychology that most people feel but never have the language to describe. If this is your first time here, consider staying. Subscribe. Because what we talk about on this channel isn't advice, it's truth. And truth, as you're about to find out, is rarely comfortable. Now, let's talk about something that no one explains properly. Missing someone is not about love. Not entirely. Missing someone is about incompletion. It's about a story your brain started writing and never got to finish. The human mind is a pattern-seeking machine. It craves resolution. It craves closure. And when something ends abruptly, or never fully begins, or stays perpetually just out of reach, the mind doesn't let go. It holds on, it replays, it invents. This is why the person who gave you everything, the constant texts, the always available energy, the desperate eagerness to please, somehow faded from her memory the moment you stopped talking. And yet, the one who pulled back, who went quiet at strange moments, who made her feel slightly uncertain, lives in her head rent-free, months later, for reasons she can't fully explain to her friends. She'll say he was different. She'll say there was something about him. But what she's really describing is a psychological state he triggered inside her, one she's mistakenly labeling as connection. Here's the uncomfortable truth you need to sit with. Presence. Constant, predictable, unconditional presence kills desire. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the brain stops registering what it can always access. Think about the air in this room. You're not thinking about it. You're breathing it, existing inside it, completely dependent on it, and utterly unaware of it, until it's gone. You become the air, and she stops breathing you in. This isn't manipulation. This is neuroscience dressed in human emotion. The dopamine system, the same mechanism behind gambling, social media, even drug addiction, doesn't fire for guaranteed rewards. It fires for uncertain ones. It surges in the space between maybe and yes. It lives in the pause before the reply. It thrives in the moments when someone you want makes you wonder, even slightly, where you stand. And you've felt this yourself. Don't pretend you haven't. Think about the last person who made your stomach drop when your phone buzzed. Were they the one who always responded instantly, always showed up, always made it easy? Or were they the one who kept you slightly off balance? Not cruel, not cold, but just enough beyond your grasp that reaching for them felt like both a question and a hunger. You know the answer. It lives in your chest right now. You changed. The moment you started caring too much, you started disappearing, not physically, but in the way that actually matters. You disappeared from yourself, and she felt it before you even noticed it happening. This is the part nobody talks about in any self-help video, any dating advice thread, any late-night conversation with a friend who means well but doesn't quite understand. Everyone tells you what to do. Text less, post more, act unbothered, play it cool. As if desire is a game with moves and counter-moves, as if the human heart is a chessboard and you just need to learn the right opening sequence. But she's not responding to your strategy. She's responding to your energy. And energy. Real energy. The kind that pulls people across rooms and lives and memories for years. Cannot be faked. It can only be recovered. Because here's what actually happened. Somewhere between the first time you felt something for her and right now, you made her the center of a universe that used to revolve around you. Your morning mood started depending on whether she replied. Your confidence started leaking out through every double text, every just checking in, every time you laughed a little too hard at something that wasn't that funny just because she was watching. You stopped being interesting because you stopped being interested in anything that wasn't her. The psychology here is brutal in its simplicity. Attraction is not built on how much you give. It's built on how much you are. There is a version of you, the one you were before this particular longing took root, who had a direction, a quiet confidence, a life with edges and texture and depth that had nothing to do with whether any one person approved of it. That version of you created a gravitational pull without trying, because gravity doesn't try. It simply exists. When you hollowed yourself out to make room for her, you removed the very thing she was drawn to in the first place. This is the paradox of desire that destroys people quietly. The more intensely you want someone, the more you begin to perform for them. And performance, however polished, always feels like performance. She can't name it. She won't say he seems desperate or he lost himself. Thou such, thou and thou, die. She'll just say the feeling changed. She'll say something felt off. She'll pull back without fully understanding why, following an instinct older than language. So what does making her miss you actually require? Not games, not silence as punishment, not calculated unavailability designed to trigger anxiety in someone you claim to care about. That path leads somewhere dark, and more importantly, it leads somewhere empty. Even if it works, what you get back isn't real. It's a reflection of her fear, not her feeling. What actually works is harder, more honest, more permanent. It requires you to become, again, or perhaps for the very first time, someone whose inner world is so full, so genuinely alive, that your presence carries weight simply because you carry weight. Someone who chooses her, consciously, clearly, but doesn't need her to complete a sentence that was already whole. The most magnetic thing a person can be is someone who would be completely fine without you, and chooses you anyway. That choice, made from fullness rather than hunger, is the one that haunts people. That's the one she replays at 2 a.m. Not the grand gesture, not the perfect text. The quiet certainty of someone who knew who they were and still looked at her like she mattered. You can't manufacture that, but you can return to it. And that return, that quiet, almost painful process of coming back to yourself is exactly where we're going next. Because the most dangerous version of you isn't the one who plays hard to get. It's the one who simply doesn't need to. Coming back to yourself is not a decision you make once. It's a decision you make every single morning, sometimes every single hour, until the gravity shifts and you stop orbiting someone else's opinion of you. And that shift is where everything changes. Let's talk about silence. Not the cold, weaponized kind. Not the passive-aggressive disappearing act designed to make her anxious. Real silence. The kind that comes from someone who has so much happening inside their own world that they simply don't feel the compulsive pull to fill every gap with words. Most people use communication as reassurance. Every text sent to someone you're falling for is, underneath its surface, a small question. Are we okay? Do you still feel it? Am I enough? And she reads that question even when you didn't mean to write it. She hears the need beneath the casual tone. She feels the weight of someone leaning, and instinctively, without cruelty, she steps back to keep her balance. But when you go quiet because you're genuinely living, not performing absence, not counting hours before you respond, but actually consumed by something real, something that belongs entirely to you, that silence carries a completely different frequency. It doesn't ask anything. It simply exists. And existence without asking is one of the rarest, most disarming things one human being can offer another. She notices that quiet. She turns it over in her mind. She wonders what you're thinking about, because for once, she's not sure it's her. Here's a psychological reality that will make you uncomfortable if you let it land properly. People do not miss what made them feel comfortable. They miss what made them feel alive. Comfort is valuable. Comfort is necessary, but comfort does not create longing. Longing is born from contrast, from the feeling of being slightly more awake around someone, slightly more aware of yourself, slightly more uncertain of the ground beneath your feet in a way that feels less like danger and more like electricity. You cannot give someone that feeling by being endlessly accommodating. You give it by having a perspective they can't fully predict, by caring about things with an intensity that has nothing to do with them, by occasionally disagreeing, not to create conflict, but because you have a self that is distinct, unmistakable, and unwilling to dissolve just to keep the temperature comfortable. The person she misses is the person who felt like someone, not a mirror reflecting her own feelings back at her, not a yes disguised as a human being, someone with edges, with quiet opinions, with a life that would continue, fully and completely, with or without her presence in it. And this is where most people misunderstand the whole thing. They hear, be less available, and they become cold. They hear, have a life, and they perform busyness. They hear, don't chase, and they replace chasing with punishment, the deliberate withdrawal of warmth designed to trigger panic in someone they claim to want. That is not strength. That is fear wearing strength's clothing. Real emotional power, the kind that makes someone lie awake thinking about you with a warmth that borders on ache, is never performed. It radiates. It comes from someone who is genuinely at peace with uncertainty. Someone who can hold space for, I don't know where this is going, without collapsing into anxiety or aggression. Someone who can walk away from a conversation without needing it to have ended perfectly. Someone who, even in vulnerability, never fully loses the thread back to themselves. That is the version of you she cannot stop thinking about. Not because you withheld something, but because you had something. Something that belonged entirely to you. Something she could feel but never fully hold. And the human heart, wired since the beginning to reach for what it cannot completely possess, will keep returning to the edge of that feeling, over and over, at strange hours, in quiet rooms, wondering about you. There is a moment, and if you've been paying attention, you've already felt it building, where everything we've discussed stops being theory and becomes something you can actually use. Not as a weapon, not as a script, but as a way of returning to a version of yourself that was always more powerful than the one longing made you forget. This is that moment. Let's talk about what happens inside her mind the second your behavior becomes unpredictable, not erratic, not confusing, but genuinely alive with its own internal logic that she doesn't fully control or understand. The brain, by design, pays more attention to change than to consistency. It's called habituation, the neurological process by which the mind stops registering what stays the same. A smell you noticed walking into a room disappears from your awareness within minutes. A sound that startled you becomes background noise by the third time. This is not a flaw in human perception. It is an ancient survival mechanism. Filter the constant, focus on the new. When you are consistent in your eagerness, your availability, your emotional transparency, you become background noise, not because you are insignificant, but because the brain has categorized you, filed you away, marked you as known, safe, and therefore unworthy of active attention. The moment you change, not manipulatively, but authentically because you have genuinely redirected your energy back toward your own life, her brain flags you as unresolved. And the unresolved gets attention. The unresolved gets thought. The unresolved gets replayed at 2 a.m. with a strange, hollow feeling in the chest that she will describe to her friends as confusion, but is, in psychological terms, something far closer to obsession. You don't create that by texting less. You create it by meaning more, to yourself first, and consequently to everything around you. This is the distinction that separates the men women casually forget from the ones they carry quietly for years. It is never about what was withheld. It is always about what was present. A man with a genuine sense of direction, even quiet, even understated, leaves an impression that outlasts the relationship itself. Because what she felt around him wasn't just attraction. It was the rare, disorienting experience of being near someone who was completely real. No performance. No shape-shifting to match her preferences. No slow erosion of self in the name of keeping her comfortable. just someone fully, almost stubbornly, themselves. And here is the final truth, the one this entire script has been building toward, the one that will either land softly or hit like something you weren't ready for. You cannot make someone miss you. Not really. Not in any way that lasts. What you can do, the only thing that has ever actually worked across every psychology study, every pattern of human longing, every story of desire that outlived the moment it was born in, is become someone worth missing, not worth chasing. Not strategically elusive, not performing unavailability while quietly dying for her attention. Worth missing. Because you are full, because you are moving, because your life has weight and texture and forward momentum that exists entirely independent of whether she notices it. When she feels that, and she will feel it, because that kind of energy is not invisible, something shifts in her. The dynamic tilts. The question that used to live in your chest quietly moves into hers, and she finds herself doing what you used to do. Checking. Wondering, replaying, not because you played a game, but because you finally stopped playing one. That is the psychology of desire in its most honest form, not control, not manipulation, not carefully timed silences designed to manufacture panic in someone else's nervous system. Just you. Return to yourself. Whole in a way that hunger had temporarily hollowed out, present in your own life with an intensity that makes absence feel like something worth mourning. That is what she misses. That is what anyone misses in the end. Not what you did, not what you said, who you were when you forgot to perform for anyone. If something in this video felt uncomfortably familiar, if you recognized yourself somewhere in these words, in these patterns, in these quiet moments of wanting someone so much you started to disappear, then this channel exists for you. Psychology of desire is not about becoming someone better at games. It's about understanding the forces moving beneath every human connection, desire, power, longing, withdrawal, so clearly that you stop being unconsciously controlled by them. That understanding changes everything, not just how others see you, how you see yourself. If this resonated, subscribe. Because what's coming next goes even deeper into the psychology of emotional detachment, why the people we want most are rarely the people who are best for us, and the hidden patterns of attachment that most people carry for an entire lifetime without ever examining once. Leave a comment below with one word that describes how this video made you feel. Just one word. You might be surprised what you find in the replies. How many people felt exactly the same thing, alone, thinking no one else understood? They do. We'll see you in the next one.